Yeah, right. That's the camera. Okay, that's it. Turn over, please. And over there. Okay. So, sorry we're missing Wes and Liz today because this class is going to be great. I feel it. We're going to reach a level of comprehension. And good, Darielle, good. Let's us check at the end of class. Say, how did that go? Do you get sort of how it fits together a little bit more this time, and we'll talk. Okay. I thought of Michelle and the softball team today as I was writing this up. I thought of my new dog today as I was writing this up. I thought of my daughter sleeping outside last night, well, on the screen porch last night with her friend who was staying over. She's here all week. We don't believe in sleepovers on a school night, okay, in general, but her parents are out of town and she's staying with us. So they slept out on the screen porch. Thought about that today as it relates to this. Thought about cancer today as it relates to this. Did not think about RNA because I'm not sure what that is, but we'll get to that. We won't get to that today necessarily, but it relates to a lot of stuff, Darielle, so it should be applicable. You understand softball teams, you understand dogs, you understand sleeping on the screen porch. We all do, but it can be, it can be very abstract, this stuff. But I'm hoping I'm familiarizing ourselves with the concepts as we go. Okay, let's go over this. I'm looking for updates there in your research paper, and how your interests are sort of fomenting, and how you're seeing applications, maybe things you'll focus on. It sounds like we've got at least 3 people, maybe we're going to talking about things with psychology and sociology with identity. One person talking about society and how society evolves. Another person talking about language and how language and communication sort of evolves and changes. And 3 people talking about biological stuff. So that's fine. That's the way it should be. We don't have anybody talking about the humanities and sort of the evolution and sort of growing complexity of a cultural genre or an art form or something like that. Well, actually, we did. Diogenes talked about music potentially, so that's one way that we might be going in that direction. It's understandable you might not be thinking in that direction because we haven't gotten to the humanities sort of section of the course quite yet. But take it as you can. Okay. That was to be an example of, what was that? Did you all get that? B, positive and negative feedback loops. That's right. They devoted a section to discussing unintended consequences. Very good. And another one to the edge of chaos. That's right. I don't have a, in fact, remind me, we ought to insert this in there at the beginning. I don't have a section on the edge of chaos. Remind me at some point when you think it comes up with what we're talking about. Oh, is this sort of what the edge of chaos sort of is about? Is this what she was getting at there?
What was the term? Something criticality?
Yeah. I forget the term that's used, but the point of criticality where it's about to break up. Okay. And systems live at that point where they're about to sort of break up. Okay. So today we're reviewing concepts in complex adaptive systems, which is what some people focus on in terms of complexity. But complex adaptive systems are not all examples of complexity necessarily. When you guys think of complex adaptive systems, what are some of the things you might think of? What are some things you might think of when you think of complex adaptive systems?
I think our bodies.
Our bodies?
Yeah.
Because our bodies are complex?
Mm-hmm.
Are they adapting?
Over time.
Didn't you just adapt to what I just said right then? I mean, you responded, right? You're responding to the environment, you're responding to, but yeah, we adapt, we build more muscle tissue if we're lifting more weights and things like that. And, my daughter sleeping on the porch with her friend last night, I was thinking, that could be a good thing. That could help her adaptive system, her system become more adaptive. Any of you guys sleep with the windows open? How many of you sleep with the windows open? Okay, only one person. I'm surprised there was one person in class that even did it, or else you're a freak, but that's good. That's good. Most of us don't, right? We used to sleep with the windows open, and it may have been good for us. Can you think of benefits of sleeping with the windows open? Because it helps your body adapt. Fresh air, well, it's just raw oxygen that you want there. Allergies. We may have more allergies now because we're less immune to the allergens, because we're less exposed to them. We're not around them all the time. We don't develop an immunity to them. I've heard that theory anyway. Yeah, okay, other examples of complex adaptive systems? Yeah, I knew you were going to mention one. Looked like you were thinking of something.
Like a different country?
Yeah, a country. Is the United States changing in response to other systems around it? You know, Syria is falling apart, Iraq, Libya. It's going to have to change. Other places have changed. You know, they're changing so much, they're collapsing so much. You'd think they'd be glad to be rid of Omar Gaddafi, right? I've heard it just recently. I think in this morning's news, some people are saying we wish they hadn't taken out Gaddafi. As bad as he was, look at us now. People are having to leave the country in droves because it's chaos. Yeah, countries, bodies, organisms. I would submit that a complex adaptive system is, say, an industry, maybe a music industry. And aren't there, do musical artists have to respond to changes in the music industry? They do, don't they? Is a band, there's a band that I just met them just yesterday that lives across the street from me. Are they a system? Are they sort of a complex adaptive system? They're having to adapt. If they're going to stay together, they got to adapt to what's going on with the people in the group and other stuff, other opportunities. Yeah, they're adapting. And they're adapting to those larger systems, those structures around them. Okay, so those are complex adaptive systems. Are there systems, though, systems of complexity that are not adapting, that don't seem to adapt, don't seem to have a consciousness, don't seem to be intelligent? The sun and the sky. Is that really adapting? Often people talk about how there's kind of complexity phenomena that are not so adaptive. They're running their course, but they're not really adapting to the environment around them intentionally and generating their own responses, their own internal differentiation. But stars aren't differentiating internally. They're creating those advanced elements and so on. So it's questionable whether this term would encompass all of the phenomena that complexity itself, the generic processes, would encounter. It is most of what we're focusing on. You could talk about molecules and stuff in the solar system. We often do, laws of physics and how it processes energy. but maybe not in an intentionally adaptive way. Okay, and we'll be contemplating adaptations of these concepts to our research projects today, particularly. And thinking of examples, and where do we see that? And so I really want to bring it down to earth and think about, you know, how do these things matter? Where are they occurring? They're occurring on my back porch, you know, they're occurring between me and the dog, stuff like that. Okay, so one of the concepts that we ran across is nested systems. Systems within systems. What are some examples of that?
Like the band you just said in the music industry?
Yeah. And what other systems could they be nested within? What other systems does that band have to deal with?
I don't know, like interaction among themselves, interaction with their fans, or interaction with their non-fans.
The music industry as a whole.
Yeah, certainly the music industry as a whole.
Their agent, their manager.
Yeah, their agent, and what are the concerns of that agent, right? What's the agenda of that agent? What would make that agent happy versus what would make them happy, right? Is maybe different. They have to consider those things, and they have to know. It would help maybe if they know. Maybe they don't know, but it would help maybe if they knew what would please the agent. Yeah. What about y'all? When you graduate here, what sort of nested systems are you going to have to sort of encounter? And what would it help if you understood what would please them? You know, what sort of systems are you going to have to consider?
Graduate school.
Graduate school. What are they looking for, right, in the graduate school application? Yep, you have to understand that.
Hospitals, medical clinics.
Hospitals, medical clinics, down the road. If I'm aiming for that kind of job, how much do I have to be concerned about the graduate school tier, right? Like how prestigious a graduate school is. They're nested maybe, but maybe the graduate school tier is nested more in medical science than it is in medical occupations. And maybe what makes the name for the med school is the research that its faculty are going to do, not the jobs that you're going to get so much. But if you understood that, you'd be able to negotiate that better, and yeah, you'd have to. That would help. There's all sorts of nested systems. What are some in biology? Nested systems.
Organ systems.
Sorry?
Organ systems.
Did you say?
Organ.
Oh, organ systems? Yeah. Like I said, hoarding systems. Oh, really?
Well, in some cases.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
The
Right, so-
body's a hierarchical arrangement, so it's like the whole thing.
Yeah, what are the priorities? That's right, that's right. And so isn't the circulation system and the respiratory system sort of, doesn't that sort of reveal the priority of, say, the brain? The brain gets a lot of blood flow, and what shuts down first, right? I think don't your limbs go numb and stuff like that when you're having circulatory problems or something like that? Oh, but the brain is going to keep going. We want that to keep going. So things like that, the priorities of that. Yeah, nested systems. Actors are simultaneously involved in different systems. Now the actors, I use the term agents. Those could be cells. Those could be individuals. They could be organizations, companies involved in different systems. They could be that band, right, that I'm talking about. One of the theories of in the humanities about how we make things matter to us and we make things mean to us in a story or a narrative or a film is we want to entangle the elements, the characters, with each other in the story. So we want to tie them together. You guys think of sort of stories where everybody seems to be tied together, and it sort of works well because of that entanglement. You know, everybody's sort of related to each other, or they've got sort of different interests with each other. I don't know if you all know Downton Abbey, but that's a Masterpiece Theater series now that everybody's watching. And it's very well written, and one of the things you realize as you're watching it is that every character, as you watch them, has something interesting going on that sort of involves some of the other characters. And so there's never a dull moment where you're watching somebody that doesn't really matter that much. Can you think about the kinds of stories that we watch a lot, maybe, or that we read a lot about, or so that are where there's a lot of entanglements? Mysteries. It's all entangled in that event. That's right. And you're not going to find out at the end until sort of how they're all related to each other. I've noted before that sudden rush of being able to process how everything happened, that sudden rush of information fluency is a rush, it's a buzz, it's a sensation that you get. It's an aesthetic sensation, like a theoretical explanation of something, or getting something when a professor is explaining to you. Oh, I get it now, how it works. Give me that alert, guys. Help me with this. Try to keep it awake. I gotta just reset that thing if I forget. Okay. I'm thinking soap operas, stuff like that, right? I mean, they're really heavily entangled. And don't you appreciate that more than somebody who just came onto the soap and they've only been watching it for a couple of days? Of course you do, right? I mean, you've got more informational momentum. You've got more complexity, more mass. I mean, there's literally, I think, more mass taken up, and mass is energy, right, with you than with another person, because you've watched it more and more neurons are occupied, right? It's just more stuff, right, going on there. And they're entangled, they're connected to each other, so change in one changes a lot of the other ones, too. Change at one point changes a lot of the other ones. One thing we haven't talked probably enough about in this course is networks. You noted there's a sense of that in the article, a sense of markets are forms of networks. Neural networks, the neurons in your brain are networks. The networks of people in an organization or a community. Networks are important, and the more entangled they are, the more interconnected they are, the more energy can run through them, and the more sort of efficient it is to process information. Now, nested systems, though, leads to something which is, well, it's maybe not such a rush. Nonlinearity. This is where we're moving from a mechanical, Newtonian conception of the universe, a billiard ball conception of the universe. And Scott Davis, remember the philosopher who talked with us? Remember Scott Davis, Dr. Davis? He when we're chatting, getting ready for the class, we're talking about, free will and determinism, stuff like that. And I was sort of depicting my view of stuff, which is relatively deterministic, and though I like to think in a sophisticated way. And he was saying, yeah, well, I remember when I was with my first philosophy professor, and he disabused me. Get away from that, of the billiard ball conception of the universe. Things don't work that simply. One thing touches another thing, that causes it to touch another thing, which causes it to touch something else. They don't work like that. What happens is that things change exponentially. So a small effect leads to a very big effect that you didn't anticipate, because your world is not the same, it doesn't work by the same logic as that other world, that other sort of scale. Right? So it changes from going from one kind of phenomenon, playing one kind of game, and that changes to something else. You didn't realize it would matter that much. So can you guys think of like something, maybe like a band? thinking about the success of that band over there. They're thinking, probably when they first get together, maybe, I don't know, that, well, what really matters is good musicianship. We want good musicians for our band, so let's find the best musicians we can. Right? And if they're not understanding how systems are nested, they're not necessarily understanding how some factors might be really more valuable than they think at that time, right, when they're putting together that band. So what might, and I'm thinking about marketing kind of stuff. Although there's other things too. What kind of things might you want to consider if you're putting together a band and you really want it to be a success? Big success.
Personality. How
Personalities?
How well they can respond to the fans and be like a person that people like.
Oh, okay. So the personality projects on stage and sort of that.
And I guess how well you can get along with the team.
Yeah, and the personalities within, right? So the importance for personality and chemistry within the band, and then that chemistry of the audience with the person. I remember somebody describing REM. You guys know the old rock band REM. And somebody was describing them. I wasn't a fan. It was sort of past my time. About Brian Sipe, this guy, the lead singer of REM. They said, you know, you look at Brian Sipe, you wouldn't think he's going to be any great, charismatic rock singer or anything. But my God, when he takes the stage, he takes over, and he is a commanding presence. That matters, right? That matters, that sort of charisma. What else might matter when you're putting together the band?
Dedication.
Sorry?
Dedication.
Dedication, right. Do these people, she's not that good a bass player, but my God, I know her. She works hard at everything she does, and she just started the bass recently, so she's going to learn it. That kind of thing. Yeah. Other things? You're putting together a band. You're Simon Cowell. I would like to be Simon Cowell. You're Simon Cowell putting together the next. Yeah, you know. That was past your time too. Y'all are too old for me to cite the One Direction mention. What mattered for One Direction besides musicianship?
Their looks.
Yes, hello Raquel. Their looks. Come on. That's right. It matters. It matters. So this band across the street. Yeah, I met them. I meet this man, this woman. I'm walking the dog. Right. It's an opportunity to get me out there and circulate. Right. It's good for circulation. We got circulation coming in this lecture, but. Takes me out there, and I finally get to meet these people. They've been over there living across the street from me for probably at least 2 months, maybe 3 months, and I haven't had a chance to meet them yet. Okay? In this car culture, we're not walking around that much. And I introduce myself, and I meet him, and he's with this woman, and I meet her. Turns out she lives there too. And I say, typical American style, I ask him right off the bat, what do they do? What are their jobs? And she says, oh, well, I got a lot of different jobs. And he says, well, we play music mostly. We're musicians, but we do work in different places. Oh, really, musicians? And we start talking. They end up giving me a CD, right? Their group is called, I know, nice Dr. Demerath, you lose the punchline. Their group is called Halcyon Child or Hydrogen Child. Hydrogen Child, I think. Well, y'all are just living in caves as much as I am if you can't name the band right off the bat. Oh, that must be, you don't know the band? They're pretty big locally. They're a pop band. Hydrogen Child, is that what it is? You think?
He doesn't know.
Huh?
He
He
doesn't.
doesn't. Do you know?
I don't know.
Anyway, I'm happy to tell you, okay, I'm happy to tell you. They're very good. I mean, they're very good. So they gave me a CD, I listened to it. Well-produced stuff. I mean, it's slick stuff. It sounds like something you'd hear on the radio. Well, with reverb and stuff like that. Listen, I can have you listen to non-slick stuff. Shoot, you guys have already seen it on my YouTube channel, right? That's called not slick stuff, okay? Their stuff is slick. It sounds like, it's well-produced.
Can you bring the CD?
I should bring it to you, yeah. I was thinking, because you know bands, right? It's often guys. I was thinking she might be the girlfriend of, the guitar player or something like that. And she lives with them, and they're living there. And maybe she's in the band, does little keyboards, or something like that, backup vocals or something. No, she's the front person. right? She sings every word of every song. It could be called Her Name, the Ainsley something band. Now, I'm happy to tell you, for their future, she is very pretty. She's good looking. She's good looking. So she would cross the Simon Cowell test, right, of being attractive enough to front the band and to be marketable, right? And that's a nested system kind of thing. When you get to that level, it matters. You're not playing in front of your friends in high school anymore who know, for example, that you're a jerk and they don't want to go, or that you're really nice and they want to go, and hey, they're good. No, now it matters at that superficial level. Do you have the face to put on the album cover and stuff like that? By the way, on their CD cover, they don't have her picture. And I'm like, listen, guys, we're trying to market. Yeah, you got it, Anyway, nonlinearity. Constant change, right? These systems are constantly changing, and you're involved in more than one, right? You're involved in more than one, but they're constantly changing, and so that means effects are unpredictable. This is actually two separate things here. I thought they were going to come up at two different times. So you need to sort of treat these somewhat separately. These are two reasons why things are nonlinear and things jump up, right, or jump down in terms of how things matter. Effects are unpredictable. I didn't realize that mattered so much. So when we're talking about identity, a person's involvement in the band, right? There's something that happens that could really cement their commitment to the band. Maybe there's a song that they wrote about something that was very important to them, to that person, but the other people don't realize it. Well, I didn't realize that she had that experience. That's why this band matters so much to her. It's because of that song that we wrote together. They find out later. So she's got another system that she's involved with that's nested within the band, but we don't know that. It's hard to understand that. And so that's what makes it jump up for her. So actions produce effects at multiple levels as well. So they can produce different levels at the same time. So we write that song, it has this effect for the band, it also has that effect personally for somebody in the band. Yeah, Josh.
Okay, so can you use, so you know how you have different genres of music. So you have one genre of music, and you know that one genre of music, it changes like over the years. And so could like the lyrics or the actions of the person singing the songs, how people, how people are with one thing at one particular time when a song, like the lyrics of the song are popular. And then as time goes on, somebody comes up with something else and the words of that particular song are popular, so it changes what the person was doing at that time.
You see, I mean, there's the way the song was written and the way it meant to people at a certain time, and then it's redone by a different artist later on, but it means something different because it's related to different things, and maybe it's done a different way and stuff like that. Yeah, totally. And by the way, speaking of looking at Diogenes' beautiful hair right now, love your natural look, but I'm thinking of a singer who redid a song. She redid a Roberta Flack song. And y'all remember Roberta Flack? Great classy, sort of traditional kind of soul singer. And she had a big hit, Killing Me Softly.
Oh.
Remember that? And it was redone by who redid it? But the singer was Lauryn Hill. Yeah, she was a singer, I think, for the Fugees. Yeah, Fugees. And it was a sort of a heavy hip-hop track and stuff like that. Roberta Flack did not mean it to be hip-hop. She, they didn't have hip-hop then.
It was more like chill, kind of filthy, kind of like earthy type feel to it.
Yeah. And when Lauryn Hill was singing it with that beat in the background, it was much more of a, sort of a dance song. It really was. Absolutely. And so you get You get things that mean different things at different levels. They can come in again as they encounter other systems. Yeah, that's how things. But that's how things are unpredictable. You never know what songs you're hearing and hating now you might love later when they redo them in a different context, related to a different sort of set of meanings and so on. Yeah. Okay. That's right. Get this back right here. Okay. All right, guys. I know. Here we are back at the weird diagrams. I know. You're going to see a lot of them today. But they're not wordy. You can follow along. I'm going to use the same template over and over again here as I try to apply some of these different concepts. Okay, so this was the emergence of hierarchy in information processing initially. That's what we were talking about. And about how you got these people on the fringe that are exposed to a lot of different things, like they're exposed to the people from the red colony, and they're exposed to the people from the blue company and all that, and they're bringing in stuff to the people at the center in their corner offices, perhaps, very isolated from this diverse life outside. And it eventually gets in, that novelty, if the information comes in, and it's like food for the system. It keeps it going. And here they're processing information at a very high rate. It's a lot of shared information, not much novelty, but you don't need much novelty at that